1. Let's dive into this classic 1985 Chevy K10 that's caught our attention on Craigslist. This square-body K10 is rocking that timeless blue paint job inside and out, and it's got the legendary small-block V8 under the hood. With 128,000 miles on the clock, this 4x4 workhorse still has plenty of life left. The manual 4-speed transmission gives you that authentic truck driving experience that's getting harder to find these days. What's really sweet is that all the comfort features are working. The AC blows cold, heater's good to go, and it's riding on fresh shocks. The seller's thrown on some good rubber too, and that long bed configuration makes it super practical. At $12,000 OBO, you're looking at a clean-titled classic truck that's maintained its value well. These square-body Chevys have a strong following, and prices have been climbing for well-kept examples. The seller notes it runs good, and the overall condition appears solid based on their description. For anyone hunting for an old-school K10, this one seems to tick a lot of boxes: 4x4 capability, V8 power, working AC, and that iconic 80s styling. Just remember, like any 38-year-old truck, you'll want to give it a thorough inspection before pulling the trigger. 2. Let's check out this interesting 1980 GMC Sierra 3500 that's popped up for just $2,000. Look, I've got to be straight with you. This old workhorse has definitely seen better days. The seller's honest about the fair condition and rust in the body panels. But here's why this truck might still be worth your attention. First off, we're looking at a pretty rare bird here, a 3+3 crew cab dually configuration. These weren't common back in 1980, which makes it interesting for collectors. Under the hood, there's some good news. The 350 V8 is actually a newer long block with only about 5,000 miles on it, plus a fresh carburetor. The manual transmission adds to its appeal for old-school truck enthusiasts. With 73,000 miles showing, the relatively low mileage is a bright spot. It's got that Portland ladder rack and a bumper hitch, so it's ready for work duty. The seller mentions it starts easily and runs well, always good to hear on a truck this age. At $2,000 OBO, you're basically paying for that newer engine and transmission. Sure, it needs bodywork. Those rusty panels aren't going to fix themselves. But you've got two potential paths here. Either use it as a budget work truck that's mechanically sound, or take on a restoration project of a relatively rare crew cab dually. 3. Let's check out this clean 1984 Chevy C20 Silverado that's listed for $16,500. This is one serious square body hauler, packing that monster 454 big block V8. But what really makes this truck special is that Gear Vendor's overdrive unit. That's a premium upgrade that helps tame that thirsty 454 on the highway. Smart addition for anyone wanting to actually drive their classic truck. The feature list is impressive: power steering, power brakes, power windows, tilt wheel, and cold AC, all the comfort options you want. Those chrome bumpers with guards and dual exhaust with chrome tips give it that perfect 80s street presence. The bedliner shows they were thinking about protection, and those dual fuel tanks mean you can actually use this beast without constant fuel stops. Here's what's really impressive. They're claiming it's totally rust-free, body and frame. That's huge for a truck of this vintage. The odometer shows 116,000 but has rolled over, so we're looking at 216,000 plus actual miles. But don't let that scare you. These C20s were built like tanks. At $16,500, with the seller open to trades for muscle cars or street rods, you're in the territory of well-preserved square-body Chevys. The price reflects the condition and those desirable options, especially that big block Gear Vendors combo. 4. Let's dive into this 1980 Ford F-150 custom stepside that's caught my eye at $6,500. This is one of those honest old Fords powered by the legendary 300 cubic inch straight six. An engine that's basically bulletproof when maintained. What's really cool here is the 4-speed manual with overdrive in 4th gear, making it actually usable on modern highways. The seller's been transparent about the truck's history. It sat for about 5 years and has only seen about 10,000 miles since 2014. But here's where it gets interesting. They've done some serious mechanical work. We're talking a rebuilt front end with fresh alignment, overhauled brake system, and a complete clutch job with new pressure plate and bearings. Plus, they sorted out the distributor that had it sidelined, and they've got the receipts to prove all the work. At 172,956 miles, it's got some life experience, but these trucks were built to last. The brown paint gives it that classic 80s vibe, and the step-side bed is a desirable feature among collectors. Speaking of the bed, it needs new wood, but that's actually a pretty straightforward DIY project that could really elevate the truck's appearance. For $6,500 OBO, you're getting a clean titled classic with fresh mechanicals and that bulletproof 306. The step-side body style is getting harder to find, especially in solid shape. 5. Let's check out this 1978 GMC Sierra Grande 25 Camper Special that's up for grabs at $7,500. This is one of those heavy-duty 3/4-ton trucks that were built to handle serious work, and the Camper Special package means it came beefed up from the factory for hauling slide-in campers. Under the hood, you've got the tried-and-true 350 V8 paired with an automatic transmission, a combo that's proven reliable for decades. The seller's done some recent maintenance that's worth noting. New water pump, fresh V-belts, and new front brakes. Those are important items that show someone's been taking care of the essentials. With 99,000 miles showing, it's actually relatively low mileage for a truck of this vintage. The brown paint is classic 70s style, and having power steering and power brakes makes it much more enjoyable to drive than the non-power versions. Being a Sierra Grande means it was one of the higher trim levels for its time. At $7,500 OBO, you're in the ballpark for a solid late 70s GM truck, especially with the Camper Special package. These trucks have been climbing in value, and finding one that runs great with recent maintenance isn't always easy. 6. Let's talk about this 1970 Dodge D100 that's listed for $5,900. This is one of those honest old work trucks powered by Dodge's legendary Slant 6 engine, an absolute tank of a motor that earned its reputation for reliability. The manual transmission keeps things simple and engaging, just like a classic truck should be. What's interesting here is the utility bed. It's not your typical pickup configuration, which makes it stand out from the crowd. The sellers focused on getting the fuel system sorted out with a rebuilt carb, new fuel pump, fresh metal gas lines, and a new fuel filter. That's actually smart work. These old trucks often need their fuel systems refreshed after sitting. The odometer shows 10,000 miles, but on a 70 model, we're probably looking at 110,000 or 210,000. These old odometers typically rolled over at 100K. But hey, with these old Dodges, mileage is just a number if they've been maintained. At $5,900, you're getting a piece of American truck history with that bulletproof Slant 6/manual combo. The utility bed makes it interesting for collectors who appreciate something different, or for someone looking to use it as intended, as a working truck. 7. Let's check out this 1978 Chevy Blazer that's asking $25,000. This K5 has had some serious work done, centering around a freshly rebuilt 307 small block with an RV cam. And when I say fresh, I mean fresh. The engine's got less than 100 miles on it since the rebuild, so it's still in that critical break-in period. It's paired with a 350 transmission, which is a solid choice for these rigs. The seller's gone through this Blazer pretty thoroughly with upgrades and replacements. You're looking at a new aluminum radiator to keep that fresh motor cool, plus a modern vintage-style AC system. That's a great upgrade for actual usability. The brake system's been overhauled with a new booster, master cylinder, and brakes, and they've even refreshed the rear end with new seals. At $25,000, we're definitely in restored K5 territory. These late 70s Blazers have seen their values climbing steadily, especially ones with documented mechanical rebuilds. The combination of the fresh drivetrain work and modern cooling AC upgrades makes this an interesting prospect for someone wanting a classic Blazer they can actually drive and enjoy. 8. Let's dive into this sweet 1962 Ford Ranchero that's listed for $12K. Now this is something special. A 62 Ranchero that's been living the good life in a garage for at least 35 years. These car-based pickups are getting harder to find, especially ones that haven't been left out in the elements. The seller mentions it's partially restored, and it's rocking that classic straight six engine paired with a 3-on-the-tree manual transmission. That's pure early 60s automotive nostalgia right there. The odometer shows 103,190 miles, but on a 60-year-old vehicle, that number is more of a conversation piece than anything else. What's really important here is that long-term garage storage. That's usually a good sign for body and frame condition. At $12,000 and open to reasonable offers, you're in the ballpark for a partially restored Ranchero. These vehicles have a dedicated following, sitting right at that sweet spot between classic car and utility vehicle. The straight six might not be as glamorous as a V8, but it's known for reliability and has its own group of enthusiasts. 9. Let's check out this 1980 GMC Sierra that's commanding $23,000. This Sierra's got some serious upgrades under the hood. We're talking a 350 small block Chevy pushing 290 horsepower, paired with a 400 transmission. That's a potent combo that gives this classic truck some real muscle. The sellers matched that power with comfort, fitting it with vintage-style AC to keep things cool. Inside, you're looking at a fresh interior redo with new carpet, and they've added a modern stereo system to bring some current tech to the classic cab. The truck's sporting good rubber, and it comes with a shell, which is always handy for keeping your cargo protected. Now, $23,000 is definitely in the premium territory for a 1980 Sierra, putting it up there with some of the best restored examples. But with that built 350 fresh interior work and working AC, you're getting a truck that's been significantly upgraded while keeping a classic feel. 10. Let me tell you about this incredible 1956 Chevy 3200 that's up for grabs at $17,000. This is one seriously well-sorted Task Force Series truck, powered by the legendary Blue Flame 235 CI straight six, paired with a 4-speed manual floor shifter. What's really impressive here is the extensive list of mechanical work that's been done. We're not just talking about a pretty face. Let's break down this mechanical refresh because it's impressive. They've rebuilt the differential with new gears, installed fresh wheel bearings all around, and put in new shocks front and rear. The brake system got a complete overhaul with new everything: master cylinder, lines, turned drums, the works. They even installed a NOS transmission. That's new old stock, folks, meaning original factory parts that never been used. The running gear got serious attention with a rebuilt carb, new electronic ignition, fresh cooling system components, and new clutch assembly. Those powder-coated wheels with new rubber really set it off. But here's what's really cool. This truck comes with a treasure trove of uninstalled OEM parts, a complete wiring harness, fully labeled, new rear bumper, door seals, chrome mirrors, and even the classic white Chevrolet tailgate lettering. That's thousands in parts alone. At $17K, you're getting a long bed 3200 that's been mechanically restored the right way, plus all those extra goodies. These Task Force Chevys are climbing in value, especially ones with this level of mechanical attention. 11. Let's check out this interesting 1985 Dodge D 3500 stake bed that's listed for $4,300. This is one of those specialized work trucks that's getting harder to find, especially in this condition. We're looking at a 1-ton dually with a massive 7x12 stake bed, and get this, it's got a lifting hoist on the right rear corner. That's a super handy feature for loading heavy items. Under the hood, the seller believes it's packing a 360 cubic inch V8, and it's backed by a 4-speed manual with that classic granny low first gear, perfect for heavy hauling. The Dana 80 rear end is a beast, known for handling serious loads without breaking a sweat. Here's what's really impressive: 6 new tires, plus a like-new spare, a reupholstered seat, and an unmolested dash with no cracks. That's rare for these work trucks. The odometer shows 59,855, and while the seller's honest about not knowing if it's rolled over, they note the drivetrain's unusually good condition. There's only one dent in the right front fender, and those metal stake sides are in excellent shape. That's pretty remarkable for a '85 work truck. the sellers only used it for one moving trip and a few dump runs, so it hasn't been worked hard recently. At $4,300, you're getting a lot of specialized truck with those stake sides and that hoist. These D3500S were built for serious work, and finding one this complete isn't easy. 12. Let's talk about this 1979 Ford F254 X4 that's up for grabs at $4,000. Here's something special. A one-owner F250 that's been with the same person for 46 years. That's pretty rare to find these days. With 88,421 original miles, it's actually quite low mileage for a 79, especially for a heavy-duty truck like this. The seller's being straight up about the condition. It's showing its age after sitting unused for a while, both inside and out. But here's the important part. They say it's got good bones and a strong engine that drives well. On these old Fords, that's what you really want to hear. The brown paint is classic 70s Ford style, and being a 4X 4F250, it's got the beefier running gear that made these trucks legendary workhorses. Having a clean title after 46 years of ownership is a nice bonus. No title drama here. At $4,000 OBO, with the seller mentioning retirement and must go, there might be some room to negotiate. For a solid running classic 4x4 F250 with documented long-term ownership, that's an interesting starting point. 13. Let's check out this monster, 1966 Chevy 4x4 long bed that's commanding $28,000. This isn't your average 66 Chevy. We're talking about a serious powerhouse here with a 502 big block under the hood. That's some serious muscle for an old truck. Paired with an automatic transmission, this setup makes for a potent combination that'll definitely get your attention. The sellers kept it classy with black paint, and they've upgraded the dash with Dakota digital gauges to keep tabs on that big block. While the description is pretty brief with too much to list, the basics we can see tell us this is a well-thought-out build. The odometer showing 80 miles suggests this truck's likely seen a complete restoration or rebuild. At $28,000, we're definitely in premium restored modified classic truck territory. But when you consider what's involved, that massive 502 engine, the 4x4 drivetrain, and what appears to be excellent condition, you're looking at a serious investment in parts and labor to create something like this. 14. Let's dive into this super clean 1984 Ford F250 that's listed for $8,000. This is one of those rare finds, a well-documented 6.9L IDI diesel F250 with all its original paperwork and maintenance records. Being a third-owner truck with documented 3,000-mile oil changes, since new shows this rig's been loved its whole life. The seller's done some serious maintenance work here. Every bushing on the truck has been replaced, new glow plugs and relay installed, and they've even upgraded to a redhead steering box. That's a premium upgrade that serious Ford guys know about. At 140,327 miles, this is barely broken in for one of these IDI diesels. The only issue mentioned is the AC needs a recharge after a radiator replacement. That's a pretty minor fix in the grand scheme of things. The red paint looks sharp on these 80s body styles, and being a two-wheel drive means less complexity to maintain. At $8,000, you're getting a seriously well-maintained piece of diesel truck history. These 6.9 IDIs are known for their reliability when maintained properly, and this one's got the documentation to prove it's been cared for right. 15. Let's check out this 1966 Chevy C10 that's listed for $8,500. Now this is interesting. We're looking at a C10 that's been given some serious Corvette attitude with a 350 Vet engine under the hood. That's paired with a 4-speed manual transmission, which makes for a fun combination that'll definitely wake up this old truck. The seller's recently done some significant mechanical work. We're talking fresh cooling system components with a new radiator, water pump, and hoses. They've also tackled the engine with a new head gasket, carburetor, and distributor. That's some serious maintenance that addresses a lot of common issues these old trucks can have. With 125,000 miles showing, this C10's seen its share of road time. But these trucks were built tough, and that Corvette 350 swap gives it a whole new lease on life. The 4-speed manual transmission makes this a much more engaging drive than your typical automatic C10. At $8,500, you're in the ballpark for a running and driving 66 C10, especially one with a Corvette engine swap and recent mechanical work. These mid-60s Chevys have a huge following, and finding one with some performance upgrades is always interesting. 16. Let's talk about this 1979 Bronco Ranger XLT that's up for grabs at $10,000. Look, the seller's being straight up honest here. This isn't a perfect truck. But what makes it interesting is that massive 460 Ci 7.5L V8 swap with a Holley Sniper EFI system. That's some serious muscle under the hood. Those Sniper systems aren't cheap, and they make these big blocks a lot more livable and reliable than the original carbureted setup. The good news continues with a fresh set of 35-inch KO2S. Those are premium all-terrain tires that'll handle whatever you throw at them. But now for the reality check, it's got some issues that need addressing. There's a broken rear brake line that needs fixing, some rust spots to deal with, and those front seats are worn out. Plus, if you're in Denver, heads up, it won't pass emissions as it sits. The odometer's rolled over, so those 9,999 miles aren't telling the whole story. But the seller notes it starts, runs, and drives fine, which is what you want to hear with a modified rig like this. At $10,000, you're buying a Bronco that needs some love, but has some serious potential with that 460 Sniper EFI combo. These late 70s Broncos have a strong following, and finding one with a big block swap is always interesting. 17. Let's check out this 1978 Ford F350 that's commanding $29,500. This is one clean-looking heavy-duty Ford, powered by the legendary 460 big block V8. What makes this one special is the attention to comfort and modern amenities. They've upgraded the interior with some seriously premium Moore & Giles Captain's chairs. That's high-end leather furniture territory right there. The audio system's been modernized too, with a retro sound Bluetooth radio and 4 new speakers, giving you modern connectivity while keeping that classic look. The white paint gives it that timeless work truck appearance, and with 120,000 miles on the clock, this F350's still got plenty of life left. The seller mentions it's in daily driving condition, which is exactly what you want to hear about a classic truck at this price point. At $29,500, we're definitely in the premium restored classic truck territory. But considering the high-end interior upgrades, that massive 460 engine, and what appears to be excellent condition, you're looking at a truck that's been built to be both shown and driven. 18. Let's talk about this 1976 Ford F250 Highboy that's listed for $9,000. This is one of those legendary Highboy F250s, and it's packing a 351 Cleveland V8. That's a sweet engine that Ford guys really love. The 4-speed manual transmission keeps things old school, and you've got the flexibility of 2 WD plus 4 high and 4 low when the going gets tough. Those dual gas tanks are super handy for extended range, which was a great factory feature on these trucks. The odometer's showing 77,745 miles, but is rolled over, so we're looking at 177,745 plus actual miles. The seller's honest about it needing some TLC, but these Highboys were built like tanks. For those who don't know, Highboy refers to these pre-1977 F254x4S that sat higher from the factory than later models. They've got a serious following among Ford truck enthusiasts. At $9,000 OBO, with a young owner heading off to college, there might be some room to negotiate. These Highboys have been climbing in value, especially ones with the desirable 351 Cleveland 4-speed combo. 19. Let's check out this 1968 Chevy C10 that's up for grabs at $8,000. This C10's got some interesting features. It's running either a 327 or 350 small block, seller seems unsure which, and it's been set up as a daily driver. They've done some solid updates. New rally wheels and tires, fresh gas tank, new carburetor, and they've even put in a new seat. Having working gauges on these old trucks is always a plus, and the power steering makes it much more enjoyable to drive. Now let's be honest about the rough spots. There's rust in those typical C10 trouble areas. interior corners, doors, and that front right fender. The bed's all metal with no wood, which could be good or bad depending on your plans for the truck. At $8,000 OBO, you're in the ballpark for a running and driving 68 C10, even with the rust issues. What's interesting is the seller's willing to trade for an 80s square body. That tells you something about how these trucks are valued these days. The 70,000 miles showing might be original given the condition described, but as always with these old trucks, take that with a grain of salt. 20. Let's dive into this 1976 GMC Sierra Classic 25 Camper Special that's listed for $7,200. Now this is interesting. We're looking at a heavy-duty 3/4 ton with the mighty 454 big block 7.4 LV8 under the hood. These camper specials came beefed up from the factory to handle slide-in campers, and that 454 means it's got the muscle to back it up. The automatic transmission and those dual gas tanks make it a practical cruiser, even by today's standards. The seller's being straight up about the condition. There are some rusty spots that need attention, so you could either restore it or just use it as is. With 60,000 showing on the odometer, it's got relatively low miles for a 76, though as always with these old trucks, verify those numbers. They've handled some basic maintenance with a fresh battery and oil change, and they note it runs and drives well. That's what you want to hear, especially with these big block trucks. At $7,200, you're in the right ballpark for a running and driving camper special with the desirable 454, even with some rust issues. These trucks have been climbing in value, especially the big block versions.